Today is going to be a very special project. My husband and I are celebrating our 13th wedding anniversary, and I've wanted to make one of these light up LED canvases for a while now, and I thought this project would be perfect for that. Stay to the end if you want to see the reveal and his reaction. So to get started, I first needed the star chart. I went to inthesky.org. We'll want the night sky guide. Then click on the sky charts link. I couldn't change the date far enough back on the main page, but here you can. So enter your desired day, month, year, even time. Then I'm going to hit Control plus the print screen to copy this image over to Photoshop. I opened a new project and sized the canvas the same dimensions as my real canvas. Then I painstakingly painted all the dots and lines for each constellation. I wanted to print this out on regular computer paper, so I divided my canvas into 9 8.5 by 11 sections. Then I saved each of those sections as separate files to print out. I will put the full list of materials in the description box below. Now, unless you've purchased an already painted black canvas, that will be our first step. I also want to mention to use a canvas that has a deeper inset. This will hide the wires better. But before we get to that, we gotta paint this sucker the deepest depths of space. I went in one direction for the first coat of paint. And don't forget the edges. Let that dry. It covered pretty well, but my sides weren't as good as I wanted them to be. Tip: if you know you're doing another coat, you can wrap your paintbrush in plastic wrap. It'll keep it from drying out. So on to the second coat, this time in the opposite direction. This should prevent unwanted streaks. Now it looks really good. Time to start laying out the stars. I numbered my sheets so piecing them together would be faster. I also taped them together to keep them from shifting. I thought I could use just the white pencil crayon to poke through the paper, but that seemed to be harder than I thought, as you can see here, so I resorted to using the awl. If you don't have one of those, you could also use a nail. I'm checking to make sure it's going through the canvas. So this part was pretty easy. I tried not to go too deep, but in the end it won't matter. So if you go a little poke crazy, no big deal. Once the stars were marked, I went over them with the pencil crayon. This should transfer the mark to the canvas. Yay, it worked! And after that, I went over it again to make sure it was really visible. Time to connect the dots. Well, the constellations. This really reminded me of one of those connect the number dots that would become a picture, if you remember those. A little tedious, but I kept my paper handy to reference which lines go where. Do have to admit, I made a few boo-boos. It looks pretty cool already. Time for some paint. I'm using white and some glow-in-the-dark paint, cause why not? That will be for the stars, but before that I need to add my Milky Way. For that I'll be using a dark blue paint. My Milky Way goes through this section here. I'm using an old piece of sponge to dab the paint on with. I find a sponge blends better than a paintbrush. 10 points if you know where this sponge originally came from. Then I just kept layering, dabbing, and blending it out until it looked good. I mixed my white paint. I love that this will still give it a glow-in-the-dark feel. I'm such a sucker for anything glow-in-the-dark. So using the back of the pencil crayon, I created the stars. I knew I wanted them pretty big since I still wanted them visible even with the lights in the center. This was probably my favorite part, making the stars. I wish I could have been this fast. Superhero fast. I wonder what my name would be. Next, I'm using a fan brush so I can create all the little stars. I got a bit of paint and tapped the paintbrush to splatter the canvas with my newly created universe. I made sure to go over my Milky Way a whole bunch of times, since there it's going to be the brightest, being the Milky Way and all. Also get the sides of the canvas. Perfect! I actually like the way it looks now. If you wanted to stop here, you would still have yourself a pretty neat space canvas. But I wanted my lines to really stand out, so I'm using a small paintbrush and painting all the lines between the stars. But adding the glow in the dark thinned out the white a bit, so I'll be going over these lines twice. Now onto the best part, making it really glow with the LED lights. This set is a curtain light set, so it has sections that would hang down. Untangling them was a chore on its own. I organized them so they were in the right order. Time to ruin all our hard work by poking large holes into the canvas. I know this feels wrong, but the end result will be totally worth it. Promise. Trying to see how big the hole needs to be to fit the light into. I didn't want to poke my table, so I had to lift the canvas up. Lots and lots of holes. Looks so weird once you see the backside. Now, this middle brace is lifted away from the canvas, but is still in the way of some of the stars. There's also the wood around the border where, unfortunately, you won't be able to add any lights. So to get the holes properly in the center part, you'll have to insert your awl or nail sideways so you don't get stuck into the wood underneath. And here's where the border is, so anywhere along here you can't have lights. Because the lights will be sticking out on the other side a bit, I've propped up my canvas with a few blocks of wood. Choosing which side on the bottom I wanted to have my cord come out from, I taped down that first weird connection point thing. I do like that these lights have the ability to be linked together with this part, so if you happen to have a very large project, you could definitely add another set onto these. This set has 300 LEDs, which I thought was plenty for me. Now comes the fun part of adding the LEDs into the holes. I started with the first strand and tried to push the light through. The canvas clearly closes back up, so I used the awl to repoke the hole. A few times actually, to get the right size I needed. Then I inserted the light into the hole. A little close-up of my initial struggles. I just had to make sure to leave myself a path for the next light string to follow. First bunch done. Looks pretty good. On to the next bunch. Once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy. Just remember to leave yourself a path from one bunch to the next. Last few lights, and this part is done. But now I still have all these lights left over. And these. I thought I could just cover the leftovers and hide them, but this seemed like a waste. So maybe I'll do this little border around the outside. Not including this first light, I counted the lights I have left, plus the 3 bunches. So that's 15 for the first bundle and 25 for each of the leftover bundles. 90 lights left over. Then I'm taking the perimeter of my canvas, which is 108 inches, and I'm dividing it by the number of lights I have left, 90. That leaves me with 1.2 inches. Not an easy number to map out, so I'm going to switch that to centimeters. Now I have 274, the canvas, divided by 90 for the total of 3 centimeters. That's easier. Now I'm marking that with a ruler. Add the rest around the other sides. Lucky me, it ended perfectly on all sides. This one light won't make it to the edge, so I'm just covering it with some black electrical tape. Now I'm going to hot glue down each and every one of these lights. The glue takes about 10 seconds to dry or set. Then I just glued the line all the way down. Pretty easy, right? Not so much for the next section. Since the tops of the light strands aren't that far apart, I won't be able to just run them as a continuous row. So I counted the 25 lights to the next section and started there, working my way back to the first section. That was pretty easy. Section 3 was a bit more problematic that the first light in the bunch didn't reach the 25 mark. So I had to start a few light spaces in, go to the end of the 25, then double back with the rest. So a little ingenuity and I figured out how to utilize every light. Tip: I hate it when this happens. I still have glue, but it won't push through. So I like to heat the end of a new glue stick and then attach it to the old glue stick still inside. This helps it push the rest through and stops the new one from always falling out. So glad I added the border. Would have been a waste to just tuck the rest of the lights behind and forget them. Now this part is completely optional, but I wanted all my lights to stick out the same amount and at the same angle, so I'm hot gluing each one of the lights to the canvas. I coated it around the light and pulled it up to the nub part, then to just hold it until it dries. This part felt like it took forever, mostly because of the drying time. At the end, I was gluing them 2 at a time. My little frozen wire statues. They look pretty good and I don't need to be worried about any of them falling out. I might add a fabric backing just to contain this mess. Time to try the lights out. This is so cool. This turned out so much better than I ever could have hoped. Looks good with the lights off as well, but definitely the lights are the show. Ready for the big reveal?
Okay. Ready?
Oh, that was cool. Are those constellations?
The
Does it say
constellations
something?
of the day that we got married.
Oh, really? I want to press the button.
Wait.
Oh, shit. This way. Oh, cool.
What do you think?
That's neat.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you, baby doll. Come here.
Ooh. I love it. It's awesome.
I love it. Thank you. That's very cool.
If you made one, what date would you use? Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming amazing creations. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!